Hi, this is Dustin with Dustin's Dollars. Today I'm going to be talking about Knightscope and specifically about the lockup period for insiders that is about to end, and just give a quick rundown of what the current insiders are holding in case you are curious. So before I begin, let me remind you that I am not a financial advisor or a financial professional of any sort. All opinions that I express in this video are mine and do not represent those of any company or any other individual. I currently hold a long position in Knightscope, so basically this video should be for entertainment purposes only, because I could be wrong about everything I say in this video. You need to do your own research before making any investment decisions. So, the main point of this video, or at least one of the big things, is a reminder to everybody that the lockup period for insiders in Knightscope stock is going to end, I think, next week, if I can do my math correctly, right? This is from the form back in January, the offering circular, and the specific language in here that talks about the lockup period is, all the insiders, the current and proposed directors and executive officers, they've agreed not to dispose of or hedge any shares of common stock or their options. Where does it say? For a period from the date of this offering circular, continuing through the date 180 days after the date of the closing of this offering. So that is, I believe, next Monday, next Tuesday, next Wednesday, somewhere in that vicinity, depending on exactly what date they consider to be closing this offering, whether after the date of the offering means like you add one day or not. So couple, slight ambiguities in there. I'm sure a lawyer could tell you exactly how to interpret this, but I believe this basically falls between next Monday and Wednesday. So it is possible, that they could legally sell some of those shares at that point. The insiders could, all the executives and the board members. And so that is something that we should be looking out for. I personally would view it as a very, very bearish and negative sign for the company if they're selling their stock at this particular price. Even though, as I'm going to go through in just a moment, some of the executives do have options that are very, very far in the money at this point, meaning their options are worth quite a lot because they were priced almost 10 years ago, 8 or 9 years ago, when the company was worth significantly less than it is now. So, they could actually walk away with a good chunk of money if they wanted to. But again, I would view it as a bearish sign if we see some of the executives selling, when it's in the, $2 or $3 range. Hi, Wakaza. Thanks for joining. I would view it as a very negative sign if we saw insiders selling at this point in time, for the company and at this price. Maybe it would have been a different story if the stock had held the, mid-20s stock price that we had for just a tad bit at the very beginning of when it started trading. Who could have blamed them? What did you miss? Not too much. Just sorry for anybody on the watching the video. Wakaza asked, what did I miss? Not too much. So this is the real quick. The recap is at the IPO or the initial listing, I should say. I don't know that it was officially an IPO. They had a lockup period of roughly 6 months, right? 180 days. All the insiders did for all the shares that they're holding. And so this is and so they have not been legally able to sell any stock in the company up until basically next week, next Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on exactly how you interpret this language, right? I'm not a lawyer. Something like that is going to, they're going to be able to sell their stock next week. Hi, I'm Random Light Loco. Thanks for joining. Anyways, we should be, next week is when they could possibly sell their shares legally. And sort of, as I said before, I think it would be I will view it as a very negative sign if the insiders do start selling. And I'm going to go through real quick what the insiders are holding, and then, feel free to ask any questions or comments y'all have about, Knightscope. I know I haven't done too many videos on it recently, just because there's been some announcements, but nothing huge that really stands out. So I did want to go through real quick what the insiders are holding right now. First of all, if you didn't catch it, all the board members did get an option granted to them for 40,000 shares. at a strike price of $3.04. That just happened, I think it was last week. And those options are good for 10 years. So, all the board members, other than Bill Lee, the CEO, who is also a board member, all of them got that. And so, presumably they're going to hold on to these options for quite a while. So I don't think there's a whole lot of... I would be very, very shocked if any of the board members sold anything. However, some of the insiders are holding, significantly larger chunks of stock via options. And so I wanted to go through that real quick. So we have Mallory Burke, the CFO. She both, and everybody received some of these options, right? These 10-year options priced at $3.04 last week. They all got sort of different sizes of grants. But this, I think, was part of that 2022 compensation plan that they, voted on and got approved at the shareholders meeting about a month ago. And so this is like the first compensation that we're seeing coming out of that, I believe. But they all got these in various amounts. Mallory Burke also holds options, the CFO, 500,000 shares of Class A commons that are at strike prices of $2.34, and then 500,000 at strike prices of $10. So she's quite underwater on this one, and these aren't worth, they're worth something, but not that much at this point. We're trading in the below $3 a share. Just calling that out. That's what she holds. Aaron Lenhart has been with the company for a while. I guess maybe that's another thing I should call out if you're unfamiliar. Mallory Burke joined in 2019 or 2020, somewhere in that vicinity, I think. And so clearly she hasn't been at the company quite as long. But you'll see some of the folks who've been at the company for a while do have a good chunk of options. This is Aaron Lenhart. He has been, I think, with the company since the beginning or very, very close to it. And you can see he's got a number of options here, including some for Class B common stock, which, real quick, if you're unfamiliar, Class B common stock is convertible 1-to-1 into Class A's, but it does give you sort of 10 times the voting rights, if I recall correctly. Don't quote me on that. That's just off the top of my head, but that's my recollection of what the Class Bs are. Is basically they're worth the same as the Class A's, except for the fact that they actually confer significantly more voting power in terms of the shareholders meeting, voting on proposals for the company. So you can see here he's got a nice lineup of options. But this is what I meant when I said some of the insiders have options that have strike prices well below the current price. We think we've dropped from $10 down to $3 or so, and everybody would be underwater. But actually, some of these options were granted many, many years ago, well before they went public. And so, so he's got some options, priced all the way from 16 cents a share up to $1.24. So all of these are very well in the money. If you really wanted to, these would be worth a good chunk of change, but they have a lot of time left to expire, and he has some of the earliest to expire options. There's a couple folks who have options that expire in 2024, so it's likely that we're going to see some insiders exercise their options and then at least sell some shares for tax purposes, to satisfy the withholding when they do actually do that exercise. But that would probably happen, I would guess, closer to the expiration date, right? Either probably in 2023 or maybe even in the early months of 2024. And while Kaza says, Knightscope has been racking up clients month after month, I wouldn't be keen on selling as an insider maybe 5 years from now. It's time to build and move forward. I agree 100%. And that is why I have the opinion that if we do see insiders selling now, like as soon as the lockup period ends, that to me screams out as a negative sign, right? Because as I've said and implied many, many times in the past, I think the company is growing. We are going to see significant expansion from the company, and if an insider was selling, that would give me a lot of pause to say, hey, maybe I'm wrong, right? Because they're in a much better position than me with lots of inside information to really see what's going on, especially if we see multiple folks selling. I think it is a little bit unfair to say that they wouldn't sell, that no insider would sell any shares, because maybe they want to buy a house or something, that the people will sell for many different reasons. However, I do agree, right, with what we've seen happen with the stock, the valuation of the company, and the growth all the signs that I see that look like pretty excellent growth. I have to feel like every insider is going to feel like the stock, who is, the chief intelligence officer and also Bill Lee's wife, She has roughly the same grants as Erin Lenhart does. You can skim through it here if you want to. But she does have some options expiring in 2024 that we might see her, exercising those at that point in time. But again, I'd be surprised if she did that now. I imagine it's going to wait till the expiration dates. Going through here, we can also see Stacey Dean Stevens he also got a grant last week of some 10-year options priced at $3.04, and then he and Bill Lee do not directly own all the options like some of the other folks. They, as the founders, just got a big chunk of Class B commons from the very beginning, right? Stacey Dean Stevens owns 3 million Class B shares, and Bill Lee owns 7 million shares. All these options are actually listed down here, but you can see the very right column. They are beneficially owned by him, but it's indirect, right? These are the ones that are actually owned by Mercedes, his wife. So the direct ownership from Bill Lee, he really just, sort of similar to Stacey Dean Stevens, has a big, huge bag of Class B common stock, right? 7 million shares. That is basically it. And then we have one other insider here, one other executive, I should say, Peter Weinberg, the general counsel, and he, got this grant of 114,000 roughly worth of shares. Again, 10 years options, strike price of $3.04. And he also had one measly option compared to the other insiders, because he's been was a relatively late addition to the company, of 500,000 shares priced at $8.37. So, as of right now, all of his options are underwater, right? These are underwater by a good chunk, and his his recent grant at $3.04 is obviously just barely underwater, I think, as of now. I guess I'm not sure. I don't recall what it closed at today. I could check that, but roughly it closed below that. So that just tells you that his options as of right now are not really worth. They have no intrinsic value, at least. So that was everything I wanted to go through today. Took even longer than I expected to go through those. So sorry about that. I really just wanted to give an overview of those. I don't know if either of you are still on the stream. If you have anything, any questions or comments at this point. Yeah, I mean, again, just to reiterate what you said, Wakaza, I completely agree that, I have to feel like the executives are optimistic about the future and feel like the things are going to go up from here, and that the stock price is going to follow that in the not so distant future, and that there's a lot of an optimistic future ahead for the company, that all this stock, if they hold on to it, is going to be worth a heck of a lot more over time. All right. Well, Kaza says, I mean, if they're like Tim Cook from Apple, who is on schedule to have to sell because that's part of their compensation, then sell. Yeah. Right. And that's why I say these options, I think, I'm not 100% sure, right? I'm not a tax expert, but I think that these options don't, I think they have to pay tax when they exercise them. Like, I think just when this is granted, I don't believe they have to they have any tax burden from that. I think if and when they decide to exercise these options, right? So for example, let's take somebody who has one that is very clearly in the money. Like Erin Lenhart, right? He has these options. Let's take this one, Class A common stock, right? That's obviously tradable, because it's a little more complicated with the Class B common stock, but the Class A common stock is definitely tradable, right? That's what you and I can buy and sell on the NASDAQ. But these options don't expire until 2028, right? And so I think, but I'm not sure, that when these options were granted, I don't think that was a taxable event for him. So I don't think he had to sell anything in order to cover the taxes on it. I think when it gets close to 2028, assuming that the stock price of the shares is above $1.26, right? Let's say it's at, hopefully it's much higher, but let's say in 2028 it's still only $3, right? He's still going to want to exercise those at that time, and so he would exercise these options. He would pay the 200,000 times $1.26, and I guess I'm not 100% sure exactly how the tax is computed off of this, but he would convert it into shares and then something when they convert into shares actually gets becomes, a taxable event for them, and they have to withhold some amount of tax on this. And I'm not exactly sure how it works, but I've seen this in many other companies, right? When they exercise the options and they have to sell a portion of the shares that they just purchased, or that they just got. I guess they didn't technically purchase them; they exercised the options to get those shares, but they had to. In doing that, then they create a taxable event. I think, but I'm not sure that they might get taxed on the difference between their the price of their options and the price of the stock. I guess I'm not sure. But so I would expect once they start exercising the options in 2024 for us to see them exercise the options and then sell some of those shares to cover the tax on it. But not all of them, right? Probably, 30, 40, 50%, somewhere in that vicinity. Well, Kaza says, but this is a young company and new technology, and the focus is to build long-term, at least the next 5 to 7 years. The company is in the emerging growth space. Absolutely, 100% agree. That is why, except for when their options are close to expiration, I will be really surprised to see any of them selling these. And again, I will take that with a healthy dose of, realism to really check my assumptions on what's going on, what the future really looks like for the company. But yeah, totally agree. Just wanted to call it out for everybody so that y'all have it, in your minds and you can be watching for it. So that was it for today. I don't know if you have anything else. If not, I will hop off. I'll give you just a minute to respond if you want. While I give my normal chat. I do these videos on my channel as live streams, usually as many days as I can, Sunday through Thursday evenings. And that evening is in Eastern U.S. time, usually 9, 10, 11 p.m., sometimes closer to midnight, like tonight actually was. But that is when I do these. I love having folks on the chat and getting, I learn a lot, which is part of what I'm doing this channel, is to, learn and get feedback from everybody to, become a better investor. All right, I am not seeing anything new on the chat. I don't want to make this video any longer than it already is and needs to be. So thank you very much, Wakaza, for joining. And let me scroll up. Why won't you scroll up? And also, I'm Random Live Loco. Thank you for joining. I'm not sure if you're still there or not, but thanks for tuning in, and have a good one.